We get a new hate piece from The Guardian on Palantir surrounding their latest AI Expo conference that mainly focused on defense. But interestingly, Palantir kind of subtly hits back, or at least wants to post out there on X, their Fox interview and coverage about the Expo as well. So I know everyone's got their 2 cents around this, but I'll be showing off the blatant bias in the Guardian article. So it really starts out with the one-sided view that everyone there at the Expo is a warmonger, essentially saying they're outspoken justifiers of war, and that they basically come in with their loaded questions of asking about AI-powered violence in Gaza to combat this, when in reality throughout the article you can see that the author isn't really trying to learn or understand, but push their agenda with omissions and missing context when trying to portray what they quote-unquote learned. So it really sets the stage that they're seeing everyone there as a profiteer on war, saying all folks fell into one group, as if no one understands the humanity and devastation that war causes. But sure, let's be naive that people are so simple and the whole event sucked their life force out as if it were a tragedy to be there. So they start out with their first panel of listening and really is trying to hone in on Karp and points out his jovial nature around partnering with the CIA and kind of making Eric Schmidt from Google sound like he was boasting about that relationship. And then also sets us up to make Karp sound like even worse than him, saying he condones violence and is bombastic and trying to play the crowd but is failing. But this is a big representation already. Palantir's main objective is to stop violence by having overwhelming power and force and technology. So he would condone to be weaker? I don't think so. But obviously this journalist is trying to make it sound horrible, scaring our adversaries, and trying to turn around the Karp quote of being peace activist to irony, when in reality it's pretty obvious Palantir truly is aiming to be the stronger one to prevent war. But further, the journalist tries to portray General Milley as feeding off of Alex Karp's energy, talking about supporting the war in Gaza as supporting a terrorist organization. Now, it's interesting here if you read it closely, they only quoted support a terrorist organization, leading it up to with the Gaza statement when it's obviously Hamas, and that's the governing body there responsible for the terrorist attack, making that decision for October 7th. So it's convenient they posted this quote on here as if it's intentional to note any Hamas though, because it goes against your narrative, so you have to see it that way. Then we get a quote from Milley also actually talking about the US and their atrocities from World War II, which clearly goes against the earlier statements from saying the journalist saying people here are just hellbent on being war profiteers and not thinking about the humanity and horrors of war. So it's a little bit of a flip-flopping here, and it seems like they're only doing this because it's convenient to call people inhumane at first until they say something bad about themselves in the US, which you want to bring up that quote now. Then we get to some more personal experience of the journalists wandering about, their conversations with, say, a nuclear weapons research person, and trying to paint them as inhumane or just aloof and taking war lightly, and then calling themselves the new Oppenheimer when this person clearly is just trying to be friendly and talk about the relevant things happening at the conference. And then we get another quote, but from a Palantir employee saying people who are interested in national security and just basically understand the real world about how war works, and then for Palantir and wanting to defend democracies. But the journalist here is trying to say, right on their mission, but with the juxtaposition of portraying Karp as a warmonger, then the author is just trying to say and paint all employees of Palantir as warmongers too, because they actually understand or can resonate or even just get along with Karp's view there, not necessarily fully support it. So that's just kind of an interesting note here that they try to bucket everyone all together. Then they also tried on the Palantir VR product and tested it out, which was interesting. The main point here is trying to make it sound like Palantir is gamifying war and doing it poorly by getting dizzy from the headsets. Now, obviously, that's their experience. It's a new technology, and there could still be issues, of course, but we know they're setting up this whole thing to make it sound like they're gamifying war, and anyone using Palantir's products also becomes inhumane because they become that much more separated from reality. And most unfairly, the journalist wants to portray Palantir as a money-losing failure of an investment. So they just took this one-off guy who's young, got into a car accident to get some money, and saying he's only lost money when he put it into Palantir after that chunk of change. So it's really playing to the heartstrings that Palantir is bad all around. Then they further get into the ethics and Red Cross stuff at the conference and further describing them as isolated and pushed away to the side as if they're an afterthought. Now, obviously, the point of view at the expo is around AI and defense, so focus on that and the technology, but more narrative pushing that the whole conference is about pursuit of violence no matter what, while painting Palantir as a bad company, a bad business, bad people who lead it, and bad people who work there. I don't think it's really fair, when in reality, they don't have the context or purposely ignored it to give a real fair story. But remember, this is The Guardian, and we know that they lean one way, hence why Palantir probably wanted to post the AI Expo video to get at least a little bit other information out there. But what were your thoughts, though, on the article? Do you think they got it right or blatantly wrong on Palantir? Let me know below, and I'll see you in the next video.